Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. Don't forget to follow me on social media. There are links in the description below. I still have my allergies. I mean, it's going to be happening for a while, so you know the deal. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Really weird, interesting, fascinating, optimistic, weird cryptocurrency news back in the space once again. If you've been following, especially for the last, it's been around 2 weeks at this point, there's a really weird energy in the air that analysts and larger figureheads within the cryptocurrency space believe that cryptocurrency prices are not only going to reverse in price, but that is going to be something quite dramatic that no one is actually expecting. There are a number of reasons for this as well. Legendary technical analyst. His name is John Bollinger. I never honestly know how to say it. I've only seen people talk about him online for 1,000 years, but never heard anyone say it out loud. John Bollinger has highlighted what he calls a classic Bollinger Band double bottom that may be forming on the Bitcoin price pair to the US dollar, according to him. Bitcoin appears to have found support at 74,000 US dollars, setting up the characteristic double dip lows that define a W-shaped reversal pattern. We have heard this non-stop over the course of the last few weeks. There's a lot of, and I'll say it again, a huge amount of optimism as to where the cryptocurrency price is heading. People think that Bitcoin is now on its way to around $150,000. That's not a joke. This is what we've been hearing. I mean, ever since sometime around middle March or somewhere around there. This falls directly into the April, May, and June narrative that we've been hearing over and over and over and over. There were some articles the last few days that said by the end of April, we would begin to see like the force of the reversal. There's a lot of speculation, and I dare say the word optimism, that sometime in May, that the Federal Reserve is going to lower interest rates, and that's also going to cause us to finally get past these numbers. There's always a number that we have to get by in order to completely, reconfirm that we are back into a bullish territory of some sort. We have not heard, I think the only thing that we heard that was negative comes from Coinbase, who said about 5 days ago, somewhere around there, that if the uncertainty in the market doesn't change, if the tariffs aren't lifted completely and there's no longer a pause on them, that the cryptocurrency market would then slide into what they're calling another crypto winter. Not to be confused with a bear market. A crypto winter is usually something that we fall into if there's some kind of uncertainty in the market. We go through them multiple times. They can last for a month. They can last for 3 months. No one knows what this one would be. However, on the other side of it, there's around 17 different analysts who we are constantly hearing from. And I know that John Bollinger is incredibly popular. People love his charts and they think he's always correct and he's looking at the right stuff and all these other kinds of things. Notably, Bollinger stressed that the setup still needs to be confirmed. He said classic Bollinger Band W bottom setup in Bitcoin to US dollar still needs confirmation. And there's a wacky chart of about 1,500 lines all over the place. The chart shows Bitcoin navigating a decline from its mid-January high near 110,000, with recent price action clustered around the lower band of the Bollinger Bands, yada, yada, yada. Bollinger's indication of a W bottom is based on the formation of two distinct trows in quick succession, as seen in both the price data and the oscillator readings below the chart. The first trow materialized as Bitcoin fell from its then high of 90,000 to 76,000, then rallied before sliding back to 74,500. The repeated dip in this horizontal support level has so far held, which Bollinger identifies as a potential base for a bullish reversal. Other market clues include slightly lower trading volumes, suggesting that the intense selling that drove Bitcoin down from its recent peak may be easing. If you missed out at any point, the news that we also received is that it appears, you know how the last couple of days, if we've had any downward movements within the stock market, I'm not sure if you were paying attention or not, when the additional tariffs from China went to the US, and then the US was like, okay, 245%. And then when Jerome Powell said he wasn't going to lower interest rates, and then something else happened. There were like movements down in the stock market. Bitcoin, I think, went down by 0.5%, and actually even went up some of those hours by 0.5% and or 1%. What would normally happen is, in case of economic uncertainty, or if the stock market is doing something, we would see people begin to sell. But as we've gone over before, it looks like there's a huge amount of seller exhaustion. These people have nothing left to sell. And that's kind of like the gigantic silver lining. I don't have the other article here, but there's a lot of them flowing out, like specifically in the last day or two, going over the idea that we are going to see some kind of a bullish price reversal. Bitcoin's going to 120, 130, you know the numbers. And that's mainly because that everyone who was scared out of the market, everyone who basically has no more to sell, can't sell anymore. So anytime we get negative news, it's not having like a dramatically negative effect on us. And at the same exact time, in a really weird way, a lot of these articles, and I mean, they're on, what do you call them? Like studies being done by these institutions and on-chain analytical companies. The amount of inflows to these wallets is still continuing, but the institutions have figured out how to accumulate at such the word's not a slow pace. They know exactly what number they need to do to actually not make prices move at all, while they continue to accumulate. Accumulation has not slowed down in any sort of way. We're not in like a non-accumulation period. We are always in an accumulation period with institutions. The other side of it is that they're accumulating without causing prices to actually move up, which shows that they're basically here, and that they've kind of, and I said this before in another video, they've kind of convinced people to be uninterested in this market that's literally taking over the world. That, I think, is at least for me, like the weirdest part of all of this. No matter how much good news, no matter how much accumulation news that we hear, even news about the inflows and stuff like that to the ETFs, no matter what new country or city or state announces they're getting into Bitcoin, accumulating it, mining it, yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah, the chart's momentum oscillator, which tracks overbought and oversold conditions, supports this thesis, forming a bottom near its lower border. Although this alignment with the price action suggests a possible bottom, many technical analysts are looking to the oscillator to rise convincingly above its midpoints. Okay, cool, got it, awesome. Yeah, this keeps popping up all over the place. We're getting this news all the time. I see people, I mean, whatever. People are always going to have a negative outlook or view on something, but if you've been looking at the videos from this channel for the last 2 weeks, we've seen a lot of news about this, a lot about price reversals, a lot about prices going back up. A lot of people think that the catalysts will basically be the Fed announcing that they're going to lower interest rates, which is also a bit of a doozy right now, and the trade wars, or whatever you want to call it, basically settling and kind of finishing. Tying lightly into this also made incredibly popular news. Where are the words? The European Central Bank recently cut their interest rates by 0.25%, lowering the deposit rate to 2.25%. This marks the European Central Bank's 7th consecutive rate cut since mid-2023. The bank blamed rising global trade tensions for worsening Eurozone growth. The tariffs are wreaking havoc all over the place, especially as they are completely unnecessary. The stock market should be rallying just about every single month. We should have brand new all-time highs, as well as the cryptocurrency space. The European Central Bank, the head is called Christine Lagarde, basically announced like we kind of have to do this. If we don't do this, the economy is going to continue to suffer. We will see more contraction. If you did not see, what's this guy's name? Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock, analysts from JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and there was one other institution announced within the last week that the U.S. market economy is currently in contraction mode. It is like tightening. It is getting more contracted. I don't know what word to actually use there. And basically, it looks like if the tariff scenario continues, that the U.S. economy is going to go into a very deep recession. Millions of people are going to lose their jobs, not be able to pay their rent. And this is all because, once again, of the tariffs. The European Central Bank cut its key interest rate by 0.25 basis points on Thursday, lowering the facility rate from 2.5 to 2.25. This is the 7th straight cut, and it happened during growing pressure over global trade tensions. The cut was expected, with traders pricing in a 94% likelihood before the official announcement. Every other country, I think except for Turkey. I think Turkey just raised their interest rates by 3%, but that's because of terrible economic leadership over the course of the last 10 years. If you haven't seen any charts for Turkey's, inflation rate, at some point, I think it hit 89% per year. It's not a joke. So we had a lot of news in crypto that people in Turkey were actively buying large amounts of Bitcoin, especially years ago. I think it's still happening now, but back then, when inflation was worse, a lot of people in Turkey were jumping into the market and it's crazy because they were looking for stability. And crypto, not being known for stability, was actually making it better for a lot of people living there. So I think recently they're the only ones who've actually risen their interest rates, and that's because they're trying to get things finally under control, as opposed to trying to devalue their currency so that people can go vacation there, which was the entire point of everything that they were actually doing. The cut was expected based on market behavior. The interest rate peaked at 4% in the middle of 2023, and the central bank has been cutting it down step by step since then. On Thursday, the European Central Bank confirmed that ongoing tariff battles and international economic uncertainty had worsened growth expectations across the Eurozone. In a written statement, the bank said that the outlook for growth has deteriorated, owning it to rising trade tensions. Yeah, this is completely obvious, unless you are living under a rock or have some kind of a delusion about exactly what's going on. So, yeah. As of right now, the time of me making this video, something might change in a couple of hours. Who knows? How do I say this? Trump is not too excited that Jerome Powell is not lowering interest rates. Jerome Powell said he's still trying to get inflation under control. If he lowers interest rates, it's basically going to cause inflation to pop up once again, very similar to 2020 and 2021. On top of that, if the tariffs continue, that's also going to raise taxes as well, as a lot of people are now coming to the conclusion and finally got there, that when you initiate tariffs, it actually raises the cost of things for people in your country. So basically a lot of things, if you missed it, if you're not watching the news, a lot of things in the United States are poised to get a lot more expensive because they namely import their stuff from one country. I'll give you a guess as to where it is. Similar to cars and a bunch of other industries, cars are expected, like brand new cars are expected to rise in price by $10,000 to $15,000 because of the tariffs. So yeah, until these go away, we are probably going to continue to be in the same exact pool that we've been for a while. And the expectations, if you missed it once again, from a number of larger banks, they think that Jerome Powell in May might announce he's going to lower interest rates, but as of right now, he looks quite adamant that he is not going to do a gosh darn thing. So yeah, that's all the price and I guess interest rate news going on. And yeah, let's move on. In popular news, Ripple has applied for the trademark of Ripple Custody within the United States, indicating a move in its strategy to expand into the institutional asset custody sector. Coinbase did this a number of years ago, but Ripple was not able to do so as far as we know because of the lawsuit, which has ended, not ended, is finished, is paused, is still not over, is going to take more time. If you haven't seen on Twitter or in the news in any sort of way, it was probably very easy to miss this unless you are like really into Ripple and XRP. I think the 16th of April, I think that's what it was the deadline for the lawsuit for Ripple versus SEC to like officially end on paper, i.e., we saw the video from Brad Garlinghouse about 4 weeks ago, sitting in the chair talking about that's it. It's over, lawsuit finally done. Apparently the 16th of April was the time frame for it to be like done. But apparently it's been put on pause for another 60 days. And no one knows why, and no one can give a proper answer. I know it may be due process and diligence and paperwork and yada yada. But I saw a lot of people complaining, rightfully so, online. Because even at the end of the 60-day pause, there might be like another time frame to like file paperwork. And I saw one, I don't know what their Twitter name was, but they were like, it's 60 days for this, it's 90 days for that, it's 60 days for this, it's 60 days for that, it's 90. And it just needs to come to an end. There's speculation as to why it might be taking longer, but no one actually knows. I don't know what games all these people are playing. Since all the institutions have gotten into the space, it's a very different market. It's a very different structure than anything that we've known. It just doesn't feel the same as it did before. It's a lot more gross. The filing, which was submitted on the 25th of February, has yet to be assigned to an examiner. A lot of companies are trying to get into the custody solution thingy. If you missed it, the two main big money institutional things that are being spoken about right now have to do with custody and have to do with tokenization. Custody, is fairly simple, as basically all these companies are getting into the space, these institutions, these governments, and they'll need a place to hold their coins. Typically what we see is that institutions want some kind of a counterparty risk, so not everything goes through them. So if you're a company or an institution or whatever you might be, you would say, hey, you hold some of this, you, other company, hold some of this, third company. It's kind of so basically not all of your eggs are in one basket, and basically you have a finger to point at someone should they do something wrong. The other part has to do with tokenization. This basically means that everything or institutions believe that within the next 5 to 10 years, that's the actual time frame, that everything literally with value will be tokenized on blockchains in some form or fashion. It's currently looking at XRP and the Ethereum blockchain and the Bitcoin blockchain will be the main holders of said value. But the custody thing is also quite big, and this is why Coinbase got into it around 2018, 2019. And this is why when you see the actual... long story short, why Coinbase is like the custody solution for BlackRock and Fidelity and like all these other companies. They basically got in early. The Ripple custody service is intended to offer secure storage solutions for both cryptocurrencies and fiat currencies, targeting institutional clients such as banks and corporations. By entering the growing custody sector, Ripple is looking to boost its revenue beyond its usual financial services offerings. With more institutions adopting digital currencies, the custody market is projected to go to 20 trillion US dollars, presenting a significant opportunity for Ripple to increase its influence in the crypto world. By basically doing this, they're still, once again, we're still relatively early with all of this. So in 2050 and 2060, we'll go, oh my gosh, they got in so early. It's that kind of thing. But a lot of these markets are projected to go to multiple $1 trillion. Like literally just the idea of custodying cryptocurrency assets on and off chain is a gigantic thing. This also, I guess the third point would also be kind of stable coins. And this is why you're hearing so much more about it and why everyone was relatively riled up about the idea of Ripple having their own stable coin and working with banks and institutions. So yeah, this was literally just they applied for a trademark, and this was a very popular news story. It's kind of because Ripple's doing everything correct, the way that they should be doing and have been doing for a while. But we will hear when this actually gets filed, and I assume we'll also be able to see how much money they're also holding at any given time. This is, for transparency reasons and like SEC filings and things like that. Yeah, that's the Ripple custody news. And yeah, let's move on. There's a lot of news like this floating around as well. It's difficult. There's so much happening all at the same time. There isn't a break in any of this. And this is why I was, expressing my frustrations a few videos back. I'm like, it's impossible to have this much momentum, or rather, I guess it's completely possible to see all these things going on and to A, not be bullish. I get it. But also B, as to like why we see the momentum, but nothing actually seems to be taking place. Apparently, this isn't the only country either. Apparently, the president of Kyrgyzstan announced that he has formed a strategic partnership with Binance's founder, Changpeng Zhao, to accelerate the development of the country's cryptocurrency and blockchain ecosystem, with Changpeng Zhao being appointed as an advisor. This is, I think, the second or third country who has openly announced that this is happening. Last year, we heard from Changpeng Zhao, Max Kaiser, I want to say Novogratz, I don't know why, Michael Saylor, and someone else. There's a fifth figure in my mind, who all announced that last summer they were working with countries who were very interested in crypto, not just blockchain. They wanted to acquire Bitcoin. They wanted to know which cryptocurrencies they should start buying and all that other kinds of things. And this is it evolved very rapidly when we heard in December that the United States was going to begin to buy Bitcoin. That really upped the ante. That's when we heard, oh gosh, who was it? I want to say Michael Saylor. I don't remember. There was someone who was like, yeah, I'm currently in talks with like 5 Middle Eastern countries. I'm working with multiple Latin American countries, basically all of them trying to figure out ways to also accumulate Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies themselves while being completely hush-hush. So like I said, this is the second or third country who has openly announced, hey, we're actually working with Changpeng Zhao and or other person to be able to accumulate and work on cryptocurrencies. The National Investment Agency, which operates under the presidency, signed a memorandum of understanding with Zhao, outlining plans for technological and infrastructural development, professional consulting, and blockchain education initiatives in Kyrgyzstan. Very few countries have actually done the actual education thing. And it's kind of imperative. I think China was literally the first one who started it. This was back in 2017, for those of you who weren't here. Basically, they took Andreas Antonopoulos' book, I think it's called Mastering Bitcoin, and they changed the word Bitcoin on the cover to blockchain. But inside, apparently, the book was completely the same. And they also had that thing on like national television. You can Google it. It was so weird. 2017, China had something on national television that basically like had little characters and stuff dancing around talking about Bitcoin. Remember the images? For those of you, this was old back then. They were handing out pamphlets as well that showed like someone like proposing to someone, but they were like, instead of handing them a ring, they were giving them a Bitcoin. It was a really, really weird, crazy time. And very few countries have actually made sure to try and educate their public about crypto. And these are the countries who are going to like do extremely well in the future. If you educate your public and your population, they're going to be smarter. So if crypto is going to take over, if Bitcoin's going to several $1 million, if the cryptocurrency space is going to take over the world, those who prevail are those who actually have the actual education. Under this agreement, Kyrgyzstan aims to leverage blockchain technology to increase financial inclusion, modernize its digital infrastructure, and position itself as a regional hub for crypto innovation. Remember, what was the other country? What was the other country that we heard from a couple of? I think I know who it is, and I'm not going to say their name. There's a country who basically announced that Binance owes them, I think, another like $3 billion, which was also a lie. They recently said something along the lines of like, oh gosh, well, like crypto will not be tolerated. It was something really weird. And then I think their finance minister came forward a couple of weeks later. It was like, we are looking forward to working with cryptocurrency companies. And I was like, you took one of the heads of Binance and you held him for multiple months while his family was like, please give him back. And then you said Binance owed you billions of dollars because you said that they were devaluing your currency when it's you. You were looking for a scapegoat. You've been destroying your own currency. It wasn't Binance. And then you had the nerve to get on stage and say that you're looking forward to actively working. Why would anyone do business in your country? You know where they're probably going to do business? It's Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, see, no one was expecting that one. That's what happens when you like, what's the phrase? You catch more bees with blockchain than olive oil or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but definitely makes a lot of sense. Yeah, there's another country. I can't remember the other one, but there's another country that was recently in the news as well. And Changpeng Zhao was also actively working with them to build up a crypto reserve. You know, to be a fly on the wall, can you imagine what these people are talking about? Did you see, this was 3 weeks ago when like the tariffs were like beginning to heat up there, near full blaze. When they were just starting, there was someone who mentioned, who was it? They said that like the other countries on the planet are already, making their own like secondary economies. A lot of countries around the world have no trust in the US dollar, especially right now, because of just gigantic amounts of uncertainty. And basically they're literally creating like a ring within a ring where they're basically interacting with themselves and not using the US dollar. They're using their regional currencies and they're using Bitcoin. Like, it's all starting. It's all happening right now. And who would have thought that the tariffs are like one of the main catalysts that's also pushing people in the direction of crypto and Bitcoin? I guess we should have all logically seen this one coming. Yeah, I think that is going to do it for this video. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.